What's up, guys? We are back here today talking about the NFL's top 10 teams right now after free agency, after the NFL draft. And we're also going to hit our top 10 NFL quarterbacks. I was just talking with Charles how difficult this is. As I introduced you, how difficult was it? Was it easy, hard? Like, which one was easier as far as your teams list versus your quarterbacks list?
Yeah, Nick, what's up, bro? Thank you very much for having me on the pod again. Been a
Yeah,
little
man.
bit since we've talked, so happy to get after it here with you. I thought it was very difficult. I thought teams were more difficult than quarterbacks because quarterbacks take such a long time to establish in the league of top 10 status that
Yeah.
it's like that remains pretty consistent in terms of who's on the top 10. It's just the order of who's bringing up, who's not, young guys added to the list. So the
Right.
teams are the hardest part because that's the most fluid to me.
You're right. We're going to start with our top 10 teams. We're going to go 10 through 1. We're each going to give I'll give my 10, he'll give your 10, and then we'll go back and forth and debate a little bit. But as you said, the teams is the ones that fluctuate so much. Of course, I think you can make an argument for 12, 13 quarterbacks that are probably top 10-ish,
Yeah.
just depending on what guy you like better, who was hot, this, that, or the other. But teams, like you said, are so fluid, with the good draft, with the good free agency, injuries, things like that. But why don't you get us started with your number 10 team right now in the NFL?
Yeah, so my number 10 team is the San Francisco 49ers. I think this is a team coming off a lot of steam of last year. Obviously, the upset of the Packers. I'm sorry to bring that up so early in our podcast here, but they showed that they're a very complete team. And this is a team that, went to the Super Bowl 3 years ago that nearly did it again last season. So I think that returning most of those guys, and I think that they're just such a strong franchise. They're kind of like Steelers or Packers-esque that
Yeah.
even when they don't have the highest of expectations, that you think they're going to be like top 12 worthy. And I think that NFC West is a little worse this year, not having Russ in it with the Seahawks. So I think that
Yeah.
that'll be a little bit easier game with the Seahawks. I don't think the Cardinals are going to be quite as good as they were last year. Like, they're going to be good. I just
Yeah.
don't know if they're going to be that same level. So that's tough to tell there. So I think Niners are going to take that division this year.
Niners are such a good team. Their one question mark to me is the quarterback position. I know you and I have talked about it numerous times on the podcast and off the podcast. They still have Jimmy G on the roster. I know
Yeah.
it's the shoulder injury, and they have Trey Lance. Is that your biggest concern as well, or do you have faith in Trey Lance to make it work once he's named the starter at some point?
You know what, man? I do not think it's the Trey Lance show at all. I
Really?
still think,
That's
I
what I'm
know
hearing.
that's all the buzz of all that happening, but I think Jimmy G just plays not great and not bad like ever. And if you're playing that consistently, when you're giving your team to win in a game, I think that is what matters for the ball club. So if you can put your resources in other areas that aren't as strong, I think having a top 15 quarterback, he's probably like 15 or 14, is kind of what they need right now. And I think Trey Lance still needs another year. So we'll see. I mean, we could be wrong. Trey Lance could develop quicker than we thought, but pretty much Trey Lance has just been that running option right now. So I'm going all in on Jimmy G if I'm the Niners.
Which would be huge, which would be absolutely huge since they gave up so much draft capital just to get Lance. And if he doesn't play for another year, that'd be crazy. My number 10 team here, I'll go ahead and show it with yours as well, is the Chargers. Now, they have been a team. Now, we'll get into the quarterbacks later. I know you're very high on Herbert as well. One of the best quarterbacks in the league. So close to making it to the playoffs last year, obviously losing to the Raiders in that wild game. I just trust what they've done in the offseason with some of the bigger moves that they made. J.C. Jackson, I believe. Khalil Mack is over there. And I think I trust a guy in Justin Herbert to – he was so good last year, but to be even better this upcoming season as well. So my biggest concern is just the AFC in itself. I mean, there's probably a lot of AFC teams that we have on both of our top 10 lists, but the juggernauts that you're going to have to go through, the Colts, the Titans are good. Even in your own division, the Broncos and Raiders. So and obviously the Chiefs as well, but they're at number 10 for me.
Yeah, I cannot believe that you put them at the 10th. I have them so much higher, but
Okay.
I understand what you're saying with AFC, but the AFC West in itself is going to be so strong. That's going to be the best division in football by far. We'll talk about them later, but I believe in their offseason incredibly.
Yeah, they're obviously an excellent team. I just need to see them put it together for a full season and have them make that run. I think you're betting on them to make that jump and probably maybe even, I don't know, win the AFC West, but be in contention, with the Chiefs and, Raiders are very good as well. I think I just need to see it to believe it more, but I had us thinking to my top 10. I'll give you a couple of teams that I had on my list after we finish our top 10 that just missed out, but who would you say is your ninth best team?
Yeah, we'll talk about the Chargers more later, but number 9, my Philadelphia Eagles, baby. And I do not think that I'm putting them too high. Like I don't think they're on your list. We'll see if they happen to be. But the Eagles and the Chargers had the 2 best off seasons in football. And the Eagles got A.J. Brown, a true number 1 receiver. I mean, talk about talent of guys on 25 years or younger. This guy is 3,000 yards in 3 seasons and is just a difference maker. They go and they signed Hassan Reddick. He's a Philly boy, Philly native, and just an absolute dominant pass rusher. I think that's a great contract. Drafted Nakobe Dean and Cam Davis from Georgia's defense. And those are, I have no idea Nakobe Dean fell to the 3rd round, but having, Jordan Davis just right in the middle, he's like Fletcher Cox 2.0. Like he's even bigger than Fletch, which is unbelievable. So I think those additions that you made, I think if Jalen Hurts doesn't get an ounce better, the Eagles win double-digit games, meaning 10 or 11. I think that's the most realistic scenario. I think that if everything goes right, they could win 13 games with how bad the NFC East could be. Everything goes wrong, it's probably 7. But I think we're right in the middle here, 10 or 11 games. This is a playoff team with a incomplete team last year that I really felt like they hit their acquisitions on the head, and I'm excited for the year.
A.J. Brown is such a huge move. I know we were talking about during the NFL draft. Like, I knew he wanted to be out, but what a move from Howie Roseman to get him over to Philadelphia, get Jalen Hurts even more help. I'm big on Hurts. I think he's going to have a great year. He just keeps getting better and better since his college days and everything like that. I guess for me, I just need to see it again. Just to believe that they're a top 10 team. They're one of those teams to me that just missed out. They're very close to that list of cracking that top 10. And I have a team right here that might have been close for you. They had a lot of injuries this past season, which is the Baltimore Ravens. I just have them bouncing back. You have Lamar Jackson, which I'm sure we're going to get into in a minute, one of the top quarterbacks in the league. They had a historic amount of injuries last season, losing their running backs. Lamar got hurt. Some of their guys from defense got hurt that were out for the year. And just riddled with injuries, but you brought it up. I mean, they finished last in their division, the AFC North, which has gotten stronger. I mean, no one really saw the Bengals being what they were going to be, obviously going all the way to the Super Bowl. Steelers don't seem to have a losing record under Tomlin, but I trust Harbaugh. I trust Lamar Jackson to be. They're one of those franchises similar to what you said about San Francisco, where you just kind of lean on them to be good, be consistent. So I expect them to bounce back and be a top 10 team next year. Yeah,
I totally see that being. I had that like my 9 through 12. And Ravens, like they're a bubble team for me, indebatably. It's just similar to your criticism with the Eagles. It's like I haven't seen the full Ravens play in an entire year, and having your quarterback be injured for 7 or 8 games is a massive component. Even though we're both big Lamar Jackson guys, so could be done. Stronger division than last year. It's going to be much harder to win, but they'll definitely be better. Moving on to my number 8 here is actually, a team that was in the Super Bowl last year, Cincinnati Bengals. And I don't think this is crazy to put them at 8 because no one was putting them in the Super Bowl last year. Nobody, it was hot takes that we were making that we thought they were going to be pretty good last year.
That was a hot take.
Yeah, it was a hot take. So I think that season of magic is going to be really hard to replicate, despite Joe Burrow being a stud, despite Jamar Chase being one of the best receivers in football. It's just difficult for me to wrap my head around that they're going to have the same success. Like they might even go out and win 11 11, 12 games, but might be a first-round exit. Maybe they're not that strong of a team. But
Yeah.
they made several offensive line acquisitions this year, which they needed to make to protect Joe Burrow. So we'll see, but I have them right in the 8 slot right now. If you're a top 10 team, you're a solid team. So you've got, contention chances. It's just for Bengals, I don't see them as a top 5 team right now.
And to your point about last year, they would not have cracked our top 10 bubble list, I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean,
top 20,
top 15. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
we just didn't see that. But Joe Burrow would have been that top 5, top 7 range before last season started. But yeah, I mean, I'm high on the Bengals. I have them a little bit higher than you. We'll get to that in just a minute. I do think they're going to take a bit of a step back, right? So I'm not going to say they're a top 2 team in the league where they're the Super Bowl favorites just because they went to the Super Bowl last year. I think they're going to take a little bit of a step back, which is probably why I'm high on the Ravens as well.
Yeah,
that just AFC is just such a gauntlet, and you have to get hot at the right time as well.
Absolutely.
So we'll see how that goes as well. I like that pick. I'm curious to see what you think about my pick here. Is the Titans? I might be a little low on them. Some people might have them high. They say, look, dude, they were number 1 in the AFC. There's another team that was number 1 that might be coming up pretty soon. But the Titans, can they win a Super Bowl? Is my question with Tannehill. Yes, I think he's a really good quarterback. He didn't play great against the Bengals in that wild card game where he threw, I think it was 3 interceptions. So he didn't play super well. And I know they have the rookie that came in this year. So I don't know. Tennessee seems to be in an interesting spot to me. I like them as a franchise. They're very stable. That's a team that you can trust to win the AFC South, maybe win a playoff round. But, how far are they really going to go? But they're such a stable franchise right now. It's just an interesting time in their franchise. What are they going to do with Tannehill in a year or two? But they're still consistent enough for me to put them in the top 8.
So I don't think that's a bad pick. That was another that I had them as 13 for mine, and I'll tell you why. Okay. And I know they were the number 1 overall seed with the AFC, but I have massive question marks with them trading away A.J. Brown. If you do not make the decision to pay your number 1 receiver that's 24 years old, who has been super promising, and you're deciding to trade him off, and then with that first-round pick that you get, you're just drafting another receiver that's way less proven. I don't know what that says to me about how much they desire to win right now. So Derrick Henry's there, of course. Ryan Tannehill, there's also news about him being nervous about Malik, what's his name, from Liberty? Malik Willis. Yeah. I didn't love those comments. I think they were taken a little bit out of context of him not wanting to mentor him. He was more saying he's a competitor, he's going to compete, he's not going to mentor him. But he called him afterwards, said he's still going to be a good teammate to him, of course. I just don't think Tannehill is that guy for them now. Yeah. They can only ride on Derrick Henry so much. And if he gets the ball as much as he does, it's just going to be tough for him to be sustainable. So I think Titans are going to take a step back. I mean, they go from number 1. I think they're a wild card team this year.
Yeah, which makes the AFC South a little bit more interesting. I mean, the Colts are a really good ball club, adding Matty Ice. They have JT at running back. So the AFC South got a little bit better. Even Jacksonville, Houston is not there yet, but it got a little bit better. And that AFC, like we keep saying, is a juggernaut. So I think I bank on their coaching staff, which I really like, and them just to be a solid team. And you might be right. They might end up being the wild card. I think it'll be between them and the Colts going back and forth of who wins that. And we'll see. It'll be interesting, though, for sure.
Yeah, early on, I think Colts take I think it goes 1-2 Colts, Titans, and I think it'll be close. 1 or 2 games, 11 wins Colts, 9 win Titans, that type of area. That's what I'm thinking right now. I had the Colts as my number 11. I had Titans as my 13. So they're right there. Yeah. And if you're a top 14 team, you're making the playoffs, right? All the top 14 seeds too. So these are just the ones we think are going to do the best. But moving on to my number 7, I'm putting the Denver Broncos, and this is the first of my AFC West. So I have 2 above. I've got 3 in total. And it's not because I'm putting the Broncos number 7. I think they're going to be the 7th best team in football. And there's 2 more teams above them in the division. That's how good they're going to be. And I think that main acquisition of Russell Wilson showed they want to win, and they want to win now. We talked about them last year having a really complete team, just didn't have a quarterback. John Elway went out, made that Peyton Manning type move of trading a lot of assets for the quarterback he wanted. He got his guy for Russell Wilson to be dangerous Wilson,
Yeah. I mean, they took one of my guys, Nathaniel Hackett as the new head coach. There's definitely a new fresh and flavor. They have great receivers over there in Denver and a good defense. So they should be right in contention with things. I think for me, I think it usually takes a year for a quarterback to really, Russell Wilson's obviously a great quarterback, to really establish yourself in a new franchise with the new head coach, with Hackett. But I think the change will be good for Russell Wilson. I mean, he was in Seattle for a long time. I think things got a little stale between him and Pete Carroll. So I think they're going to be one of the best teams in the league. But I don't know. I don't know quite yet what we're going to see on a week-to-week basis. And I could be regretting what I'm saying now. And, by week 6, they look dominant. But, again, that division is scary. I really like the Chargers. The Chiefs are also really good. And then the Raiders. I don't think they're on either one of our top 10s, but they're a really, really good team that's going to be a pain in the butt to deal with. And, for a guy like Russ who was going from the NFC West, where he had to deal with the Rams and the Cardinals and the 49ers. Now he's going to the AFC West, which is maybe just as hard now as it was last season.
No, I agree. No, and I think that's super fair.
So my number 7 team, I kind of hinted at it before, is a team that was number 1 in the NFC last year, is the Packers. Obviously, they lost a lot.
This hurts you. I see it's hurting you as you're saying it.
Yeah, I know. Before last season, they probably would have been a top 3, top 4 team, for me with DA and everything like that. Now, I know everyone's going to talk about the draft, but I actually liked the draft that we got. I feel like we got a lot of defensive studs, both from UGA. Yeah. So I think the defense is going to be elite. It's going to be really, really good. And we have a great secondary. Our running defense was atrocious last season. The Browns ran over 200 yards against us. Obviously, still have A-Rod, which is one of the best quarterbacks in the league still. So I trust that. I love LaFleur. He's been so consistent and good, and they dominate the NFC North. So I think they're going to have no problem, even if they drop a game against Minnesota. But I don't really see any other contenders in the NFC North at this point. So I think that benefits them as well. And then I do like their Christian Watson pickup from the draft. I think he's going to be really good. And it's going to be – this might sound a little crazy, but I think it's a little bit wide receiver by committee. So it's not – DA is obviously awesome. He might be the best receiver in football. But I think when you have to spread it out, that could be a little bit more lethal because there's not a guy that who's obviously you're going to be going to. So I got Packers at 7. They might not make the top 10 for some people. I think this is about right, just based on, again, I trust the coaching. I trust what A-Rod's going to do. Now, is it going to help in the playoffs? I don't know, but I expect them to be one of the top teams in the NFC.
This is a fantastic transition because at my number 6, I have the Packers. So I actually have more optimism just by a little for the Packers than you do. And obviously, we've talked about this on podcasts. We've talked about this before. Losing Davante Adams is magnificent. Obviously, that's a large magnitude. But I also looked through the Packers draft, and I know that they have a history of drafting really well. And so that receiver from North Dakota State University is underrated because of the school he went to. He could be turned into a stud, honestly. I think he has stud potential with Aaron Rodgers. If you put him on another person's team, I'm not saying that. I just know that Aaron Rodgers makes his players better. And the only reason I have the Packers at number 6 is because they lost Davante Adams. They'd probably be number 2 or 3 for me. Right. And it's a trend. My next team also lost their number 1 receiver, so I'll talk about that later. But I don't know why teams are doing that and refusing to pay their number 1 receiver when they have a quarterback that they need desperately. So that's what's been confusing for me.
Especially when you have an older quarterback where you're in the window to win a Super Bowl, you don't have that much time left with A-Rod. I mean, he's probably got 2, 3, maybe 4 years left of superb NFL play. So, yes. Yeah. So it's interesting. We both have them around the same area. I'm bringing up a team that you had in your earlier top 10 as the 49ers. I think they're just loaded. Wow. I mean, I'm high on the 49ers. I think I could actually be a little low on them, actually. It's just their defense I trust. To me, like I said before, it comes on the quarterback play. And I think it's just so interesting. You said it. You think it's going to be Jimmy G, which it's a lot of resources going to Jimmy G. I know he cost a lot this year, and then you gave up a lot just for Trey Lance to not really play as much and didn't really play a lot in college as well. I think he only played like one full season. But other than that, seems like they got the Debo Samuel thing all figured out. They got the defense. You got Shanahan. They were this close to beating the Rams in the NFC Championship game. You know, if they don't throw that interception, who knows? Maybe they end up coming back and winning that game. But I'm big on San Francisco. I think when you and I talked about it before, I'm big on the Bills too. And I think we had a combination of Bills 49ers because it feels like they just keep knocking on the door, and eventually they're going to knock through. But I should have been a little higher based on what I'm talking to them, but big on the 49ers, expect them to have another big year.
You know what? I see why we have the difference in ranking between the 49ers. I'm assuming Debo's going to be gone. You're assuming that things are going to be smoothed out. So yeah. I have the 49ers as my number 10 team, thinking Debo's not going to be
gone. Okay. If Debo was there, how much does that change your rankings? You think he kind of comes up in the top 5?
Probably. They're probably 8 right now. Like, I think Debo's fantastic, but I mean, when you're a top team like that, it's like you're a top team.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, man. And I'll move to my number 5. I alluded to them before. They're another team that traded away their number 1 receiver, and that's the Chiefs. And this might seem a little like low on the ranking with the Chiefs being number 5, but I'm just like, I can't believe they got rid of Tyreek Hill. I still think it's unbelievable that they're doing that. And it's probably because both teams have elite quarterbacks and they chose to pay their quarterbacks elite money. And so that money is not going to other places on your team where you really need players. So if I was an unselfish quarterback, like AKA Tom Brady, who takes pay cuts all the time so his guys can get paid, that's the reason why they can make so many mid-season acquisitions to get stars from other teams that are in bad scenarios and sign them to the vet minimum or $2 to $4 million. It's like, that's something that you don't foresee in the moment when you're like, oh, I have Pat Mahomes, I have to make him the highest paid quarterback in football. Let's give him a 10-year, $500 million contract. But that's taking away millions of dollars from other segments. That's probably why they had to trade Tyreek Hill. And I think that, I know they added Juju. I'm not very high on Juju. Juju's not a number 1 to me. He's a 2. I think he's a middle tier 2 based off how he's been playing. So I think that Patrick Mahomes, I have utmost faith in him. He is the best quarterback in the league still, in my opinion. Chiefs are going to be great, but they are missing their elite talent.
Yeah. I mean, them getting rid of Tyreek Hill is very interesting to me. I feel like they just didn't want to pay him as much money as they, because they have Travis Kelce that they have to worry about. I think he might get a new deal soon, a reconstructed deal at least. But obviously they didn't want to pay him that money. And, now Tyreek Hill is going to go to Miami and play with the most accurate quarterback in football with Tua. So that'll be very interesting. I'm a little higher on the Chiefs. I think they still got Patty Mahomes and Andy Reid. They're still going to be a force. And I think there's something to be said about a team that's been there before. You and I have talked about the Chargers, and we've talked about the Broncos and some other teams that, yes, they've added a lot of talent, and yes, they should be really good. But the Chiefs are out there; they've done it, and they've won a Super Bowl. They've been to a couple before as well. So I'm a little bit higher on them. I know they kind of had an up and down season last year. Mahomes was kind of up and down last season as far as him. I mean, he was still excellent, but as far as his expectations. But my number 5 team is the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm high on them. I think they're going to have a good year. It is going to be hard, though, to manage expectations for them because I think they're going to be a dark horse Super Bowl pick for a lot of people. I know a lot of people are going to be on the Chiefs and, San Francisco and the Rams and other teams that we're going to get to in a little bit, but I don't think they're going to make a Super Bowl run. I like them to win the AFC North, Ravens as a wild card situation. Maybe they win around something like that, but the AFC is just such a gauntlet. But I trust Joe Burrow and, that staff, and they have a great wide receiver room, which I think is a huge difference. But I think they'll have similar success as they did a season ago, maybe even more wins, I think, probably in the regular season, and then maybe stumble a little bit more in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think we're pretty much on the same page with the Bengals. It's just, what they end up doing. I mean, they probably have the best receiving core in football. I'd have to think about it, but it's top 3 for sure. I mean, they're up there. So I hear what you're saying there. I'll move quickly on to 4. This is the final of my AFC West picks, and it is the Chargers. I think I'm incredibly high in the Chargers. I said that Chargers Eagles had best 2 off seasons. I think Chargers had the best off season. JC Jackson is a top 5 corner in the league, probably top 3. And another situation, and Bill Belichick doesn't want to pay his top talent big money. JC Jackson finds somewhere that will. And they also acquire Khalil Mack. Those are 2 gigantic acquisitions for the Chargers. Those are game-changing acquisitions on a Chargers defense that was already top 5 in the league. So if you get that Chargers defense along with Herbert's high-powered offense, that is a team I'm never going to want to play. Like, I think that they actually will win the high-powered AFC West. Wow. I think it's going to go Chargers, Chiefs, Broncos, Raiders, and I think it's going to be an absolute dogfight.
Yeah.
All 4 of those teams might be above 500. That's how good this division might be.
Yeah.
But I think Chargers are going to take it home.
I hope they can put it together because I love Herbert and Staley, I think is the Chargers head coach's name. I just hope they can put it together. I think they will. I think they'll have a good season. I think the Chiefs are going to win that division, and then the Chargers will kind of slide into that second place slot. But, they had some moments last year where you weren't as confident. They should have gone to the playoffs, and they stumbled against the Raiders, and they had some great moments as well. I know they beat the Chiefs early in the season as well, but can we see it consistently? We know they have the talent. They're loaded. They're similar to a team about, to mention as well, just an all-star loaded team. Can they put it together? That's my question. I hope they do because I'm a Packers fan, but they're one of the more fun watches in football.
Absolutely. They're a lot of fun
uniforms. They haven't always had the playoff success, and maybe that's going into my mind as well. I think they've had the hype before, with LT and Philip Rivers, where maybe that's unfair to them, but sometimes that just happens. I hope to see them do well. It'd be cool to see them make a Joe Burrow Bengals type of Super Bowl run with the Chargers, but I just want to see it first, and hopefully we do. Hopefully we see it.
Yeah, tons of talent, best uniforms in football, and like a lot of likable guys is kind of what it is.
Definitely. Well, another team with a ton of talent. We're cracking the top 4 here, so a lot of talent here. So I got the Rams here. You think I'm too low? You have them a little higher? Yeah. I figured that. There's just a couple teams that I trust a little bit more than the Rams. Of course, look, when you get to the top 4, these are Super Bowl contending teams. So the Rams obviously had an excellent year with Stafford at the helm. You talk about an all-star team. They had Von Miller last year. They don't have it anymore. But, God, they got Aaron Donald. You got Sean McVay. I think the reason why I have them a little bit of a dip. Now, I think to me, and I don't think this is shocking to anybody, is the top 2 teams that I have in the NFC are going to be the Bucs and it's going to be the Rams. So I think the Bucs are a little bit better than the Rams. And the Rams, is there going to be any doubt of a Super Bowl hangover? Could there be, hey, we won? Now, some teams that makes you more relaxed, you can go get another one. But they're obviously loaded. They can make a deep run. I'm just a little bit higher on the teams that I have ahead of them. But if you have them 1 through 3, I have absolutely no problem with that. They're the defending Super Bowl champs. So I just have a little bit more faith in the teams above. But there's poised to make another run into the playoffs again.
Well, we shall discuss because I do have them quite high on my list. So we'll talk about them more in depth. I'll rebuttal once we go back to those here, but we're going to have some similarities in these top 3 too as well. So we'll break the top 3. My number 3, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I didn't want to put them 1 or 2, but the only thing that matters is that they got Tom Brady back. And the fact that Tom Brady's back for 1 more year is the only reason they're a top 3 team instead of like maybe the 15th best team in the league, because their talent makes so much more sense when it's coupled with Tom Brady rather than coupled with a free agent quarterback or a rookie quarterback, because you get excited about all these different areas because they still have one of the top receiving core in football. Like, I think they signed Russell Gage as well, which he's like a great option to have.
Good speed. I mean, with Godwin and Evans.
Yeah.
I think he's back. I think he's signed.
Yeah, and Gronk. I think Gronk is back too. So it's just like this is the same team we've been seeing, and they continue to do well. So I have no reason to not put them in my top 3, and I think they're fantastic.
I agree. That's our first agreement here. I have number 3 as well. I have number 3 as well. So I think everything that you said and more. I love their defense. They got Devin White. They got some studs in the back end as well. You got Tommy Brady, who went out against the team I just talked about in the Rams, who both are loaded teams, right? But the guy retired, then he unretired, he came back. Dude is a menace. He obviously wants to come back and win another Super Bowl. I think it's going to come down to the Bucs and the Rams in the NFC Championship game. It probably won't end up being that. It might be some other team that makes a run because it always seems to go that way. But the Bucs are fierce. They're nasty. They're mean. And they got probably the greatest quarterback of all time in Tom Brady at the helm. My question that I think is a little interesting is Bruce Arians. Now, he was the head coach before. Now he's more in the front office, which I think is a little bit interesting. I'll be interested to see how that ends up working out. I'm sure they're going to hit their groove by the middle of the season, but Bucs are going to be scary, and that should be no surprise to anybody.
Yeah, and I don't believe anything that Bruce Arians and Brady were saying that the decision didn't have to do with each other. They were button heads big time, and for Brady to come back, he had to be moved to another position.
I agree.
That's an internal story we'll see like years from now after they go to their eventual next Super Bowl because it's Tom Brady. I guess they will. But I'll break it to number 2. So we got 2 more left here. My number 2 is the Buffalo Bills. Okay. I think, like 1 and 2 here is going to be like difficult to, distinguish between. Bills are fantastic. I believe in Josh Allen. They signed Von Miller. 4 years is too long, but for the next 2 years, that's elite to have. They are that contender that keeps being there. If overtime rules were different, they might have been the Super Bowl champions this year.
Yep. Bills are great. I love the Bills. I'm very, very high in the Bills. I've said this before. I think Josh Allen is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He's so good, and that defense has gotten better. And I think I like some of the offseason moves that they've made. And I think when you make a run like this or to be one of the best teams, you have to have some of those heartbreaking losses. Usually, I mean, I guess the Bengals kind of disproved that, but they just kind of went through it. But they've gotten so close. They got so close, and they had that iconic battle against the Chiefs. And obviously we know how that went. But I think they're ready to play. They're scary to me, like the Bucs. They're coming out, and with that aggression, I think the Bucs and the Bills are really going to be doing that. But yeah, the very high in the Bills. My number 2 team is the team that you talked about a little bit before that cracked your top 5 here is drum roll please, is the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. I'm still high in the Chiefs. Yes, I know they lost Tyreek Hill, but man, you got the baddest man in football. You have Patrick Mahomes, you got Andy Reid. Yep. And yes, you're right about Juju. He is a number 2. But similar to what I think more with the DA situation, I think that kind of helps. He doesn't have to force it to one guy. He can spread it out, which can make you dangerous. You have Mecole Hardman, who's a speed guy. And, of course, since we like to, dump all over the Packers, they took MVS, who's another speed guy as well. And, of course, you still have Kelsey. So I think they're going to be fierce. And I think they didn't like the way that they went out last year, of course. And they're going to be a team to be reckoned with. I weirdly think people are kind of sleeping on the Chiefs a little bit. And I know, like, they didn't make any moves that you're going to say, wow, like, they got X amount better, But I think offseason, I think they're going to make some moves. I did like their draft, some of the moves they made there, making their defense a little bit stronger. So I got the Chiefs there, and I think they're going to be out for blood. And it's going to be a good NFL season. I'm pumped. Yeah,
you can never doubt the team with the best quarterback in football. It's just like you have to do that. That's why I have them top 5, maybe sleeping a little bit. I can't argue with you. Have them 2. They're great. All right, my number 1 team, which is the last one we haven't spoken about here yet, LA Rams. I mean, I think the Super Bowl champion team got better. They signed Bobby Wagner and they signed Allen Robinson. And I don't know how they are paying all of these people because they paid their quarterback and they paid Aaron Donald and they're paying all these people. And I think it would not be crazy if they went back to back here, especially my number 1 question was, can Stafford do it in the postseason? He's won 1 playoff game in his career, or has been to 1 playoff game in his career before being in LA. And he got it done every step of the way. He was in a shootout with Brady. He was making no-look throws in the Super Bowl. I have so much faith in the Rams. I think they're fantastic. I think they're the best team in football, and the rich got richer.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I was on them as well. They were in my number 14, but I'm going with the Buffalo Bills. I said before, very high in the Bills, very high on Josh Allen. I think he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league, and I think it's just going to be their year. I just like the offseason moves that they've made. And, I'm high on Sean McVay as well. And, of course, stuff on Diggs is a great player. So I think their division got a little bit better. The Jets will be interesting. The Dolphins got a lot better. The Patriots are always, kind of a pain in the butt team. So that should be interesting as well. But I think the Bills just got better, and I think to me, they're the best team in football right now. And if I had to lay some money on it, I'd probably put the Bills number one for Super Bowl odds.
Dude, would love to see Rams Bills Super Bowl. That would be sweet.
It could be a great Super Bowl. That would be a great Super Bowl for sure.
That would be a good one, man. This was a cool segment just because we didn't compare notes on teams or quarterbacks at all. So to see us differ on all of these, but kind of having all of our teams in the bubble, that was cool because, we have a lot of podcasts that we agree a lot. So that was good to have that, man. I'm ready to roll into quarterbacks. Do you want to do two at a time for this? I know we're like 35 minutes in here. So we can go I can start. I can do 10 and 9. You do your 10 and 9 back and forth?
Yeah, that works.
All right, man. Quarterbacks, most important position in football, most important position in sports, probably. So my number 10 is Lamar Jackson. Would love to see him healthy this year. I think that Lamar's a stud, of course. I think that his throwing ability gets better by the year. I think as long as, he does that balance between running and passing well, I think he's, best dual threat in football. And my number 9, similar type of quarterback is Kyler Murray. I just think his arm strength is better and he's more accurate. So even though they're similar type of players, I've got Lamar 10, Kyler Murray 9.
Those are great. Those are great twosome right there. I mean, you can't really argue with the Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray types. I think it's interesting how much they're changing the game as far as their speed and how they play the game. Did you think about having Kyler higher than your top 10? Because I know he started out so hot and then he slowed down a little bit. Maybe he needs a little bit more help. But what were you thinking with Kyler at that spot?
I think that's my issue is that a lot of players can start really well first 8 games throughout the year, and then they're not used to the long season or adversity happens and they don't attack it well. Like, I know that people don't worry about body language as much anymore, but I watch Kyler when he's not doing well and he kind of throws a fit, and I don't like that. So, and I know that the best quarterbacks on this list, these top 5, don't throw fits when they're not doing well. They go back. They make there's frustrations, but it's like he looks more like a little kid when he has a fit versus like a grown man frustration. So I don't know. And his contract talks, the fact that he's not even in a contract year and he's trying to get paid more. I don't love that. And I'm all about getting your money, but I'm all about getting your money at the right time. And it's just not his time yet.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that as well. So I'll jump into my top 10 here with my 9 and 10. Might be a little shocked. My 9, I have Russell Wilson, and my 10 is Matthew Stafford. This list was so hard to make. I mean, Matt Ryan, I'll just say here, he's not in my top 10, which it's hard. I mean, there's so many guys. I don't think Kirk Cousins is. I think it's close. Dak Prescott, I think, is good. Hurts is really good. So there's a lot of quarterbacks that unfortunately don't make your top 10. So this is why some guys might seem a little higher or low. But Russell Wilson, man, he's a stud. We know what he brings to the table leadership-wise. We know what he brings to the game. I'm just curious to see what it's going to be like with Nathaniel Hackett. It's probably going to be awesome, really, really good. The thing is, we just have so many young quarterbacks. He's a little bit slower. Obviously, he's in his 30s now. He's not as quick as he used to be, but he's still an extremely talented quarterback and a guy that you would want leading your franchise. And then Matthew Stafford. We just saw what he just did this past postseason run, winning his first Super Bowl. Still one of the best arms in the NFL. So those are my top 2 guys. A lot of people probably have them higher. I'm sure you probably have Russ a little bit higher than I do, but incredibly hard list to make. But those are my 9 and 10 is 10 is Stafford, then at 9 I have Russell Wilson. Yeah,
and you know what? The bottom 5 guys end up being interchangeable in the top 10. It seems like for Wilson, you've got him in a prove it ranking. Like he very well could be top 5. Yeah. And for Stafford, he's getting older. He just won the Super Bowl. These rankings are for the upcoming season. So it's like, you check that out there. But yeah, one of them transitions in mine as well. My number 8 is Russell Wilson. I kind of have him on a prove it ranking just because I have all the faith in him. Last year, I picked him to be my NFL MVP. Started off first 6 games, MVP caliber, and then gets hurt. So, those things happen. So, prove it to me on that. Number 7, I've got Justin Herbert. I think Justin Herbert's fantastic. He could also, I could see him making a Josh Allen type jump in which he's like a top 3 guy. But right now I have him at 7, but just because I have so much faith in these top 6 that I'll read to you, like afterwards, we'll go through, and it's difficult to put Herbert above any of these guys with their accolades.
Yeah, I mean, wow, it's interesting because my next 2, my 7 and 8 is Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray.
That's funny. That
was your 9 and 10.
Yeah.
I think Lamar is a stud. I think, like I said before, I'm big on the Ravens, and obviously that's a lot that has to do with Lamar Jackson. He's a quarterback that we really haven't seen before. Kyler's kind of like that. I hope they can stay healthy and play very well. But Lamar, I think he has an underrated arm. I think he can actually whip it and play very well. Kyler does too. A little small. I want to see Kyler be a little bit more consistent throughout the season. And that might not even be a Kyler thing as much as it is a Kingsbury thing with Arizona. I know they got Hollywood from Lamar. So that should be interesting. But I expect Lamar, dark horse MVP pick. Hopefully they can get that contract stuff negotiated, everything like that. But I expect them to have big years. And if you're doing a ranking of the most exciting guys in the league, they're probably in my top 5 easily.
Oh, yeah. Exciting. Yeah, they're probably both top 3, honestly. Moving to my 5, 6 here. Number 6, Joey B, Joey Buckets, Joe Burrow right here. I think 6 is reasonable for him because, carried his team to the Super Bowl, had a very talented team, but he's the backbone of that entire team. Number 5, I have Matt Stafford. I could not put Joe Burrow above Matt Stafford when Matt Stafford just outdueled him in the Super Bowl. So with Matt Stafford supporting cast right now, I think this makes him a top 5 quarterback, and I put him right at number 5.
That's fair. It's hard to disagree with that. There's so many talented guys in the league. I feel pretty comfortable with my top 5, and I think it's cool because a lot of them are super, super young guys. So I'll go ahead and give you the 6 and 5 guys. So 6, I have Brady, and then 5, I have Joe Burrow. It's hard not putting Brady a little higher than that. I think his arm obviously is still fantastic, still one of the best in the league, but the man is 44, so it's not going to be as sharp as a Joe Burrow to me, or Herbert, who to me it's not the best arm. It's maybe second or third arm in the league, Herbert, as far as that goes. But Burrow is amazing. I thought he took a huge step last season, leading the Bengals as far as they did when no one expected that. And then Brady, I think he's such a great player, great leader. He's going to give you everything he has. I just think the talent has dipped a smidge, and the guys above him also have tremendous talent. So he can lead you anywhere, and he has a lot of leadership skills that can bring you to the next level. But I have Brady and Burrow at my 6 and 5 spots.
For sure. And you're segueing me right to my 4-3 right here, with Brady being my number 4. So I have him just 2 spots ahead of you. And that's only, I know he's 44, but I also know how well he takes care of his body and how much money he spends on each year, how much time he spends training. And I know that he would not be coming back at 44 years old to ruin his legacy if he wasn't 100% confident that he's ready to play. Yeah. So I have doubted Tom Brady in the past. I doubted him when he was going to the Bucs. And I'm not doubting him until he retires now. So until he hangs it up, he's going to be my 4. And number 3, I have Josh Allen. MVP candidate. He's fantastic. Carries the team, like massive talent, really big figure. He's phenomenal.
Man, it's just so hard. These top guys, there's so many talented guys right here. I was struggling where to put Rodgers. Where do I put him? I ultimately went with Justin Herbert at the 4 spot, and I put Aaron Rodgers 3, which last year I probably have him 2. So, you guys can probably fill in the blanks of who we have and, the rest. But those are the guys. Herbert, to me, has probably the second most powerful arm in the league. Behind, Mahomes is a great arm too, but behind Josh Allen, he's so electric. He's so fun to watch. And he took a big step for me last year. So, just want to see him do it again. And, he's so fun to watch with those deep balls. So I think he's going to be great. And then A-Rod. I was looking at the numbers. I forgot that he only threw 4 interceptions last year, which is bonkers. He's so good. And then he doesn't turn the ball over a lot as well. So we know how lethal Aaron Rodgers is. He can really dice you up, and he can be really scary. But the other 2 guys, I think, again, it's not that Rodgers is falling off a cliff here. It's the same thing with me with Brady a little bit, is that the guys above him they're just a little bit better to me. If I wanted to start a franchise, I probably would, I guess French is a little bit different, but if I was going to have a quarterback for 1 year, these two guys would have slightly above a Rodgers and a Herbert, but you can't go wrong with these top 4 quarterbacks.
Yeah, dude. And we actually did not plan this out, but you're segueing me very well on all of these. I'm rolling right into my number 2, which is Aaron Rodgers. I know you put second time that I'm putting your Packers or your quarterback one above you.
I know.
And back-to-back MVP showing no signs of slowing down at all. Only difference is he just doesn't have Devontae Adams. But I'm not letting that hurt my ranking of him right here. I still think he's number 2 quarterback in football. And we've talked about this the entire podcast. We didn't make this a surprise. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in football. He's getting paid $500 million. That is just a stupid amount of money. He is simply the best. He does things that no one else can do. And I'm looking forward for his comeback year here.
So you got Mahomes 1, Rodgers 2, Allen 3.
Correct.
Right? Okay. So I got Mahomes 1, Allen 2, Rodgers 3. So very similar. Josh Allen, I think, is what I really struggled with. I almost put Allen 1 just because his legs are such a weapon. I know earlier in his career, he was compared to a Cam Newton light just because he's so powerful as a runner, which is why, I'm not worried about him as much as I do with Kyler or Lamar Jackson, just because he's a thicker human being. Great arm. I think he's going to prove it more in the playoffs and everything like that. But ultimately, I went with Mahomes as number 1. I think he's proven it. He's won the Super Bowl. He's still the scariest guy. And if you were going to start, he just changes your franchise. He's kind of like, to me, a LeBron in that way, where you put him on any team, he's really going to change the essence of that team. So we agree with number 1. To me, it's still Patrick Mahomes, but Allen is really close for me. I mean, it's really close.
Yeah, and you know what, man? Those top 3 rankings, top 4 rankings, that could change depending on how you wake up that day.
Yeah,
like deciding who's better than who. I mean, like those could go any way. I mean, they're incredibly talented guys that I would, love to have on my team any day of the week. But those rankings were done completely blind between both of us. I think that's so funny. Lots of similarities. Actually, all 10 of our quarterbacks were the same, just in different spots. Teams are a little different, and there's 32 teams, not as many elite quarterbacks and really good quarterbacks. So it's good to know that we're on the same page there. But that was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, man. Let us know what we did, wrong, what we got right. Let us know your top 10 quarterbacks and teams. And I encourage you, it's a lot harder once you get into it of like kind of like narrowing it down and everything like that. But let us know in the comments and everything like that. But maybe we'll revisit when the season started to see, where we stack up and everything like that.
Yeah, maybe we'll do like a midway point, and this will be the information that we're taking, and maybe we redo it. Maybe we see how the teams are. We're gonna be like, oh my god, this team's been awful since.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us, guys, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, thanks.